Hello, ladies and gentle hombres and whoever else may be watching. I have here more questions to answer about 1066, and that's what I'm going to do now. Starting with a question from Ian Lynch, at Ian Lynch86 on Twitter, who asks, were there any Irish at Hastings? I've read the Saxons had trade links with Ireland and was curious if the sources record any. Right, well, a chronicler named Adam von Bremen records that there was a Irish king fighting in support of Harold Hardrada and Tostig at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. He records that he was killed there. And apart from that, I have never heard of any notable Irish at the Battle of Hastings. Irish support for the Vikings, of course, isn't unusual. And whoever this mysterious king was seems to have got himself involved, probably through the Earls of Orkney. Now, having said that, Harold actually was on good terms with the Kingdom of Leinster, as he and his brother Leofwine had sought sanctuary there with King Dermot MacMail, who is the sort of the self-proclaimed High King of Ireland, in the 1050s, when the Godwinson family was taboo at Edward the Confessor's court. And after the Battle of Hastings, which, and this is something I briefly said about Brian Williams's question, when King Harold's sons escaped from England, they went to Ireland, back to friendly King Dermot, and he very kindly supported them in their subsequent raids on England. Hope that answers that question. Hope I got the Irish names pronounced properly. Sorry if I didn't. Carrying on. So this is from Joel Adamson, at Joel Adamson on Twitter. What happened to the displaced Saxon lords? And this question is actually related to another question that came in from at Timbo Sticks, who asked, did remnants of the defeated army reform and engage in guerrilla warfare? So those are some good questions there. Let's get on to them. So to start with the question about whether the remaining Saxon force reformed to continue resistance against the Normans, the answer is yes, and in a big way. First of all, the entire Saxon army hadn't even been present at the Battle of Hastings. Harold had been so eager to get to grips with William to try and surprise him and, you know, punch him out really quick, that he had stayed in London for 6 days or so and then rushed down to Sussex. In so doing, probably about 4,000 to 5,000 men were unable to show up for the battle, and they mustered in London. Now, when they heard about the disaster at Hastings, they quickly decided to try and hold the city. To do this, they proclaimed Edgar Atheling king, who was a grandson of Edmund Ironside, and decided to try and beat the Normans at the capital. Of course, London did fall. The lords who were in command of the remaining Saxon army in London capitulated and surrendered to William, and that pretty much ended what you might call the official resistance to the Normans. But in a informal military sense, resistance to the Normans continued from about 1067 to the 1080s, with widespread rebellions and raids from Ireland, as I've just said, by Harold's sons. The Northern Earls are a great source of resistance to Duke William, and the realization that the North was becoming a hotbed of Saxon resistance was a major factor in William's infamous harrying of the North. So what pretty much happened was, after the Battle of Hastings, the remaining Saxons fled either to Ireland via Wales and the west, or fled to safety in Scotland with King Malcolm, or went to York. From these places, they tried to build up support and resistance. Some of them conducted raids, some of them came back to England to raise armies to try and defeat William. Some of them launched rebellions from England, such as the legendary rising by Hereward the Wake from Ely. Also, English resistance fighters, you might want to call them, were aided by the Vikings. The Danes invaded England twice after the Battle of Hastings, and they caused huge problems for William because they formed a very dangerous core around which Saxon resistance could be formed. So, Hastings wasn't the end of the story. What happened to the displaced Saxon lords? Well, pretty much they fled to the remote places, such as the Fens, up into Yorkshire, further into Scotland, and across the sea to Ireland. I'm not going to sing. Some of them, however, submitted, because as it turns out, William didn't mind so much if you fought him, so long as you surrendered afterwards. And if you surrendered afterwards, you were likely going to live. Depending on how mad you'd made him, you might end up being tortured and mutilated. Got to pick your battles, I guess. Some of them submitted anyway. Some of them just said, right, fair cop, we lost the battle, so you're the king now. And that was the way Anglo-Saxon kingship worked. That was why Harold had been able to take the throne in the first place, because the nobles had said, you're the man. And when William took London, a lot of nobles pretty much just decided, well, he's the king now. And that was pretty much it. Apart from, of course, all those pesky rebels who continued to fly the Saxon flag.